Hello everyone, I welcome you all to Ideal 3.0 Training Day 2. Today we are going to learn about the format, the structure of your speeches, your responsibilities. But before that, just to reiterate, your theme is Ancient India to AI-led India, where everything and anything about India, from history till present, can come in your themes and topics, which is why it's very necessary for you to understand the motion. And just generally, I think it's very amazing to appreciate Indian culture and Indian history. But to begin with today, I want you all to recognize some images for me and tell me what you can see and what do you recognize from these images. Let's start from the first image. Put in the chat box what do you think it is. Spices. Okay, can anyone specifically tell me what spice it is? I think we kind of talked about it in the previous session. So tell me what spice do you think it is? I'll give you a hint. It's yellow in color.
Ma'am, what are we doing?
We are conducting day two session, and I'm asking you, what do you think this is? What do you think the first image is in the chat? Yes, all those who got it right. I think
मैडम
it's
तुमने
fun.
कुछ गड़बड़ की थी ये लो
Yes, it is haldi. Good job. It's turmeric. Very good. The next one, what do you think this particular thing is? Do you guys like math? What do you think specifically this is in math?
Ma'am, where?
Put it in chat box. What do you think this is? Somebody saying Vedas, okay, but this is something related to maths.
वही हो रहा है
Somebody says algebra, geometry, okay. The answer is that it is Pythagoras theorem. Next is this particular lady who is trying to use a structure. Can anyone tell me what the structure is? What do you think this is? Chakra, okay. What do you specifically call it? Have you seen it with somebody, one of our freedom fighters? Which freedom fighter have you seen it use? Yes, Gandhi ji. So this is spinning wheel. Good job. What do you think this one is? What's happening in this picture? What do you think is happening? Plastic surgery? That's pretty straightforward. Hmm. Yes, it is plastic surgery. And what do you think is happening in this picture? Art. Okay. Can you see a market? Can you see something is happening here? Yes, trading is happening, yes. But what, yeah, they're giving something, yes, correct. But but what are they doing? So, like whenever you go to markets and whenever you ask them to like give you something, they basically weigh it out for you. This is basically them trading between empires, okay? So they are basically trying to weigh it in on the weighing scale. So the entire idea about the all of these pictures is that all of these are discoveries of India, be it Haldi, Pythagoras theorem, spinning wheel, plastic surgery, weighing scale. All of it is discoveries of India. Now, what did I tell you was the sub theme of round one, phase one is unsung discoveries, right? So your motions, it's just example, but your topics are going to be similar and going to be like same in terms of or like this is just the examples of the kind of topics that can come. So we can probably ask you topics related to all of these discoveries that India has made in the ancient past. Yes, Anirudh?
Aryabhatta, famous Indian astronomer, invented the number zero.
Yes. So, do you see that's also a discovery of India? So, a topic about that could also come. All right, let's move forward then. This is your format. I'm going to reiterate it again. You have proposition 3 minutes constructive speech, post which you'll have opposition speech, which is again constructive 3 minutes. After which you'll have proposition reply for 3 minutes and then opposition reply. This is the structure. In one round, when you go to a room, you will have 4 speeches altogether.
Could you
and-
tell the proposition reply and opposition reply once again?
I'm sorry, what?
Ma'am, proposition reply and opposition reply.
What do you want me to do about that? Can you put the
Could
question in
you
the chat?
explain me that again?
Yeah, I will explain that today fully, okay?
Okay, ma'am.
Wonderful. Let's go to the next slide then. The next slide is about your structure for constructive speeches. Now, this is for both proposition and opposition. So, whenever you get proposition and opposition, remember that you have to make 2 speeches regardless, right? So, first speech is constructive speech, second speech is reply speech. Now, if you're preparing for your constructive speech, there are specific things that you need to involve in your speech, okay? Your speech should be in a particular structure. So there are 3 things that you need to involve in your speech. First is introduction, second is body, and third is conclusion. I'm going to specifically tell you what you're supposed to add in introduction, body, and conclusion. But for now, what you need to remember properly is that you have introduction, body, and conclusion in your speech. And that's true for all of the kinds of speeches. The only thing that changes is how do you introduce, how do you include your body, how do you include your conclusion. Rest of the things, the structure at least remains same. That's the first thing. Now, when you're giving your constructive speech, the things that you need to remember in your preparation is one, that your constructive speeches are supposed to tell the strongest points of your side. So, for example, when I was giving you a comparative of, let's say, when I say that mango is the best fruit, and your proposition, you're going to tell me all the benefits of mango, particularly, right? So you're going to tell me all the strong points of the benefits of mango. Why are you supporting mango over um, other kinds of fruits, right? So that's your positive. So what you're supposed to do in your constructive speech is tell the judge why your side is better than the opponents. For example, if the topic is that buses are the best forms of transportation, you're supposed to tell in when your proposition that why buses have specifically so many benefits. So give all reasons as to why judges should probably be convinced that, listen, from tomorrow I'm not gonna go to any other transportation. I'm gonna use specifically buses, for example. But most of the times when topics are given to you, it's comparative, right? So what ends up happening is that, let's say if the topic is buses are better than cars or private cars, then on proposition in your constructive speeches, I should have all benefits of buses. But then when it comes to opposition constructive speech, you should tell me all benefits of cars, like private cars. So that is that. So you will tell me all benefits of your stance and your side. But how will you say that? It's not just you giving me 3 points or 3 liners. It has to be explained properly. So you will tell me reasons for it, your justifications for it, and then you'll also tell me some examples for it. So 3 things that you need to absolutely put in your speeches is that, again, introduction, body, and conclusion. But when you're making all of these 3 things, you need to remember that your burden or your responsibility is to defend your side and tell benefits of your side, why your side is much more efficient, much more better than your opponents. That's the first thing. So this is how you'll be basically conducting your research as well. If there are any questions, can anyone like just put it in the chat box? I'm going to look at the chat box. Next thing then is, how do you introduce your speech in constructive speeches? There are 3 ways. Obviously, you can have as many number of ways to actually introduce yourself, but introduce your topics. But there are 3 specific ways that I'm going to tell you. And if you want to adopt, you can basically adopt all 3 of them, or you can take one of them, right? So first way is introduce your topic with a rhetorical question or statement. So you can basically ask judges a question so that the judges are very interested to know your topic. So, like the basic idea, whenever your teacher comes and tries to teach you a new topic, they ask you a question that is interesting, that makes you make that makes you interested in this topic in the first place. So that's the way how you make your listeners listen to you. So the first way is to ask rhetorical questions. The second way is give a brief understanding about your topic before defending the stance. For example, if you're talking about military, I would want to know about what is military, how many people are involved in military, why is military so important, all of that. The third thing and the third way is start with a famous quote. I think this is something that we all are aware of, right? So whenever, let's say, I'm giving a speech about Mahatma Gandhi,
Excuse me, ma'am.
I'll probably come up with a very famous quote of Mahatma Gandhi, right? So that's something just to make sure that, like it's rhetorical, it's very interesting. So whenever I give a famous quote, it's likely that the listener has already listened to that, which is why you grab their attention even faster. So these are the three ways how you can actually start your speech. But I think in order to actually take questions, I'll first give you examples of it. So I'll give you examples. So if it is still not clear, I'll take question. All right. Wonderful. So I'll give you example. For example, if the topic is India should not adopt Western style of education, and if I have to start my speech by, let's say, starting with a famous quote, I can probably quote Dr. Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan. So I'll be like, I quote Dr. Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan, the end product of education should be a free, creative man who can battle against historical circumstances and adversities of nature. So if the topic is about education, I found the best person, I found the very famous person, and then I found a quote of that famous person about that particular topic. So, can anyone tell me who Dr. Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan is? In the chat box, please. Teacher, yes. Okay. And how do we celebrate his birthday? Teacher's Day, yes. Amazing. Okay. I think that I think they all understood. So if it is a topic about education and I listen as a judge, I'm listening to somebody quote Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan, it's likely that I already know about him. So I'll listen to you more carefully now. So the idea about introduction is that I need to make sure that I'm grabbing the attention of the judge. And that's the most important thing that you need to do in your speeches. So that's the first example. The second example is, let's say you want to start your speech with, let's say, introduction to the topic. So if it is about Western education, I would start by explaining what Western education is. How did India get influenced by Western education? Can anyone tell me in the chat box how did India get how did Indian education get influenced by Western education?
Hello.
Yeah. I want you guys to come back tomorrow to me and tell me how did India experimenting, okay? So I want you to go back and research and come back to me and tell me how Indian education got influenced by Western education. Okay, there are three more. All right, wonderful. The third way is you can ask a rhetorical question. Remember, I told you that you can start your speech by a question. So this question could be rhetorical. It doesn't have to be something that you are expecting the judge to answer. It's just for you to start the speech. So for example, here I can start my speech by saying, even after 77 years of independence, is India really free from Western influence? So that's about that. It's just a question, but it makes the judge think. And if you make the judge think, they're going to listen to you even more carefully. So that is, oh yeah, Kazi, that's the correct answer. It's because of Britain and colonization. Good job. Wonderful. So these are the three ways how you basically introduce. You can use your own creative ways. Debating it's very subjective. It's also very creative. So you can use your own creative ideas and ways to introduce. But these are the three ways that you can actually, if you want, you can take any of these three ways. If there are any questions on introduction, let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to move forward with the body. Yes, Akansh, that's correct. Okay, I'm going to assume that you all understood introduction. I'm going to move forward to body. So in your body, you're supposed to have, remember I told you, you're supposed to present the strongest points of your side. What are the benefits of defending your point of view? Remember when I told you that when proposition and opposition meet, there is conflict of opinion. What conflict of opinion means is that prop is saying something else, opposition is saying something else. They're basically against each other. For example, when you're in your school, your friend says, listen, I don't want to play basketball. I want to play football. Or you could be like, listen, I don't want to play this time. I want to just study. There's a conflict of opinion. So you both will decide and express yourself and tell as to why I think studying at that particular time is better than, let's say, going out and playing, right? So whenever there is conflict of opinion, you defend your stance and you give reasons as to why your stance is better. Now, how are you supposed to give pointers is very important. The first thing that you would do is basically prioritize the best points. The second thing that you would do, once you have prioritized the best arguments and best points, you would go ahead and explain them. So explaining them looks like you giving justification. You know how, have you had do you guys have younger siblings, like very small siblings or friends, who are probably, let's say, lesser than 6 or 7?
I'm not younger, but I have a bigger sibling.
Yeah. So, like younger siblings, when you tell them to do something, they just don't understand. So think of that. And you have to explain them every single thing from scratch. So this is why you should not touch my laptop and just stop doing that, right? So you give them full explanation. So think of that. Your judge is basically a small child, and you're going to explain them every single thing from scratch. So that's what you'll do. That's what you'll do with the judge as well. So you'll explain them, you'll give examples to them, so that the judge basically understands every single thing. At times, what happens is that we think it's very normal, it's very easy. Why do I have to explain it so much? But then, it's easy in our head. It's likely that the judge does not know about it. So think from that perspective and then explain them every single thing. Now, in order to prepare your body, you're supposed to put pointers. So these pointers are called arguments or claims, right? For example, if the topic is cake is better than milkshake, I would say I would say milkshake is better because it has milk in it, which is very nutritious, and it can give you calcium, which is very nice for for small kids, etc. So my claim here is that milkshake is nutritious. So that's the claim, but I have not given reasoning or like any examples of that. So that's the claim. Then you have reasoning. So I gave reasoning as to why milk is more nutritious. I gave example as to how it's necessary for students and small kids to actually consume milk, all of that. Then I went forward and gave specific statistics and research as to how much content, how much nutrition milk has. I want you guys to go on Google and tell me specifically as to why you think
Excuse me, ma'am.
yes, Karthik.
Ma'am, can you tell me argument again?
Yeah, sure. So argument is your point. For example, if you're supporting something, the benefits of your side. Now, in order to make an argument is basically something that helps your case and helps the judge understand as to why your side is better. Now, how will you do that is by three parts. So argument has three parts. The first part is claim, second part is reasoning, third part is example. I was giving you an example from the topic why milkshakes are better than cake. And then I told you that the example, the claim is going to be milkshakes are more nutritious. That's the claim. That's just one heading. Then I'll explain it in terms of reasoning. So why milkshake is more nutritious. Then after I'm done with explaining that, I'll go forward and give an example. Also, whoever is annotating, that's not all right. Stop annotating, please. Okay, that's about claim, reason, and example. I'll give you an exercise and you tell me how would you basically make an argument for that. If the motion is about going to school is important, um, how would you say that going to school is important? I want you guys to put it in chat box. Why is going to school important? Somebody says we learn new things. Now, this is your claim. Can anyone give explanation and reasoning to why you learn things from school? So put it in chat box. Why do you learn things from school? So I think one part of the explanation is what Akansh has said. It gives you a chance to learn and acquire knowledge about different fields, for example, literature, history, mathematics, politics, and other numerous subjects. That's one part of your reasoning. What is other part of your reasoning? How do you learn in school? You have teachers in school who teach you different subjects. You have also the ability to ask them questions. So if you're not understanding anything, they can clarify your doubts. It's also there's something called as practical education. So you have experimental periods and so on and so forth. So if the claim is schools help you learn, that's just the heading of it. That's the claim. Then you will explain it through reasoning. Why does school help you learn? All of the points under that. And then you will give me example. Now, can anyone give example to me as to how you learn in school? Arsha, yes, go on.
We learn in school using different methods. Like suppose we do fun activities to make it more interesting, and we experience more and new things while learning different things too.
Or you could say schools also give you so much opportunity, like so many opportunities to participate in extracurriculars from which you also learn. So I think any of that. Wonderful. So that's the explanation and then example. So I think it should be very clear in terms of how arguments are supposed to be made. Your claim is the heading of the argument, then you explain it with different reasonings, and then you go forward and give an example to that. So it's just basically you making sure that the judge understands every single bit of your argument. The next thing is me giving you an example of opposition side. So if the topic is going to school is important and you're supporting the opposition, so if you're opposition, I could talk about how school has a negative environment. And then in my reasoning, I could talk about bullying. I could talk about how teachers compare you. I could talk about competitiveness, all of that. So this is the reasoning part. And then I could give example. I could give example of how previously some people have been bullied, or how in terms of statistics, let's say 4 out of 10 people get bullied in school every day, which is basically bad for their mental health and gives them so much stress. That's the example. So I think it should be clear. Argument, claim, reasoning, and example. Let's move forward then. This is the part of your body. Now, once you're done with giving your introduction, your body, you will conclude your speech. How can you conclude your speech? There are multiple ways. The one thing that you need to remember when you're concluding your speech is that it should be very impactful. The judges should remember your speech so that they can basically remember how much score they want to give to you. But if you've impressed them in the period of 3 minutes, I think the last 15 seconds are very important because that's the last impact you're going to give on your judges. So one is that make a very impactful statement. If you want to end by a quote, you can do so. If you want to end by, let's say, telling the judge what's the most important and strongest point they have given to you, do that. But then before doing any of that, give a gist of what you have told in your speech. For example, again, the same topic about why schools are important. I could end my speech by saying, judges, schools are important because of 3 reasons. One, schools help you learn. Second, you make so many friends in schools. And third, you get practical understanding of life. So these are the 3 points that you probably covered in the entire speech. But then when you're ending your speech, you're specifically telling the judge that these are the 3 points that I've told you, which is why my side is better than your side. So the opponent side. So two things: summarize your points. Second, make a very impactful statement. So I'll give you an example of impactful statement. If the topic is Western education versus ancient education, I could end my speech by, Judge, if you want India to independently be the sparrow of gold like it was, we must get away with Western education. So I basically made engaged with the judge, but I also made a very impactful statement about why we need to have why we need to basically go forward and have ancient education. Ancient education. Now, to give you a gist of everything as of now, in your constructive speeches, you should have introduction, body. In body, you're supposed to have arguments. Your arguments are supposed to have three things: claim, reasoning, and example. And in your conclusion, you're supposed to make a very impactful statement so that your speech is something that the judge remembers. That is about your constructive speeches. Now we'll go forward with the reply speeches. Now, one thing that's similar in reply speeches, I think there are two things which are very similar. One is introduction, and second is conclusion. In introduction, you're again supposed to make a very impactful, very rhetorical. You can start with a rhetorical question. You can start with a very impactful statement, any of that. And then in conclusion, also, you're supposed to make very impactful conclusion, like, because something that's the last thing that judges are going to listen from you. So that's about that. But what's the reason as to why reply speeches exist? Reply speeches exist so that you can respond to your opponent. At times, there are so many times when, let's say, I am defending something, and then when I listen to my opponents, I want to respond to them because I disagree with what they're saying, right? So in your reply speeches, you're supposed to present points of disagreement from your opponents. Let's say if the topic is about pizza being better than burger, and opponents, and if I'm supporting pizza, I'm saying that, hey, pizza is better because it's big, and then my opponent says that, listen, burger is better because it's nutritious and healthy. I could respond to that in my speech because I'm just disagreeing from that point. So I'll basically respond to that in my speech by saying that burgers are not good because you literally have burgers which are oily because you have to fry the patty of burger. So that's the way how you can respond to that. Now, in order to respond to that, you'll have to make a structure of your speech. You'll have to make sure that you're doing it in a very organized manner. So the point of reply speeches is to respond to the opponents and tell why your points are still better. But I could suggest that in your reply speeches, tell all the harms of the side opposition. For example, remember I told you that if the motion is about mango being the best fruit, my constructive speech, I'm going to tell as to why all the benefits of mango, and then in reply speech, I could tell all the harms of other fruits that exist. So my reply speech is basically engaging with all of the points that could possibly come from opponents, which is why your reply speech could also be prepared to a large extent. So in your reply speech, tell all the harms of side opposition, tell all the reasons as to why you disagree with your opponents. So this is the responsibility. Now I'm going to teach you as to what specifically you're supposed to use in terms of your introduction. Now, in introduction, again, you can start with a rhetorical question. You can pose it to your opponents. The second way is give a statement about your observation in the debate. Your observation could be based on what you've heard from your opponents, something which is a famous quote, etc. But let's say you want to make a specific observation about the debate. So if the debate is about schools versus homeschooling, you could say, my worthy opponent
Excuse me, ma'am.
homeschooling. Can you put that in the chat box, Alka?
Okay.
My worthy opponent believes that homeschooling could replace going to school. However, they fail to elaborate how students will be able to gain practical knowledge and exposure to friends in their side. So this is an observation from my side to the opponents. So you can start your speech by an observation about the debate. But in case if you want to make it completely prepared, then I would suggest that probably put a rhetorical question, or probably put a famous quote again. So different quote, but like more interesting if you would want to do so. Sai, don't annotate, please. That's the introduction part. Now in the body, I think something that I've already given you an example of pizza versus burger, but in your body, you're supposed to outline all the worst points of your opponents. You're supposed to tell why your opponents are wrong. why your points are more important, and you can basically present all the reasons how you can contradict your opponents. I think contradiction example I've already given you. Let's say if your opponent says if a debate is about ice cream versus milkshake, and your opponent says, hey, ice cream is better because it has so many more flavors, I could respond to that by saying that, listen, ice cream is not better because if you're talking about flavors, you can literally use the same ice creams in the milkshake and use all of those flavors in ice cream as well. So you're contradicting them. So in your reply speech, you're supposed to contradict them, give counter example, disprove everything that your opponent says. For example, if your mother asks you that, listen, you cannot buy another video game now because you've already bought enough, you could respond to your mother by saying that, I mean, that's something that you probably already do. So you could probably respond to them by saying that, I don't have enough video games. Or if you do have enough video games, you could say that you want to make a good collection of video games. Or you could say that you're already bored with the existing video games and you want a new set, you want to update your video games, all of that. That's you responding. So that's how you respond in your reply speeches as well. So that's the body of your reply speech. The last thing is conclusion. So how do you conclude? So remember that these are probably the last 30 seconds of your speech, and that's the last 30 seconds that you'll ever speak in front of the judge. So make a very impactful thing that the judge would remember you forever. I think that's a very important thing that I needed to tell you. It's not always that you need to win the debate. It's about, did you make an impact when the judges were listening to you? Did people remember you after your speech? So say something that people would remember you for good reasons, and probably tell as to why the judge should give you the debate. So give all the benefits of your side and tell why your side is better than, why your points are better than your opponents. So again, I'll do a revision. In your reply speech, you should have introduction, body, and conclusion. In your introduction, you're again supposed to make an observation about the debate, rhetorical question, a famous quote. In your body, you're supposed to respond to your opponents. You're supposed to and then in your conclusion, you will tell why your side wins. And then after you end your speech, you have to, if you're proposition, you can end your speech by saying proud to propose. If you're opposition, you can say proud to oppose. That's what you would do in the speeches, which is constructive and reply. I will now take questions in okay, chat box. So Alka says, ma'am, will there be 2 topics for round 1 or 1 topic? Because you have 3 rounds, you will have 3 different topics for each round, Alka. Then you will have, next question is, Prashika, what's your question?
Ma'am, I have this question that when you have said that we have to say some point or some amazing fact about a topic so that judges can remember us for a long time. So, ma'am, at the last we can say this, that did you know that what's that fact?
If you what?
Ma'am, you have said that we have to say one amazing fact that judges can remember us for a long time. So at the last we have to say this. Did you know what and before after that?
No, I meant you don't have to tell them a fact, but you'll have to tell them something that they would remember you for a very good speech. So you can end your speech with a very nice quote, very encouraging quote, or very encouraging question. You could basically end it with a very impactful thing that you would remember forever. So it doesn't have to be a fact.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
All right. Are there any other questions? So how many points are we supposed to say in the whole debate? That's a very good question, Akansh. So it's up to you. You're supposed to time yourself and make your content. On an average, people use 1 word per second. And can anyone do maths for me and tell me how many seconds are there in 3 minutes?
Ma'am, 180.
Correct. Yes. Good maths. Yes. So probably make a speech of 180 words and make sure that in those, so I could say 10 points, but am I going to be able to explain them and give examples for each 10 points? No. So what you're supposed to do is probably take the 5 best points or 3 best points and elaborate them well in your speech. So the quantity does not matter. So it does not matter whether you have 15 points, but what matters is that if you have 3 points as well, are you explaining them well? So that's more important. Samaksh, what's your point?
Ma'am, we need to say 180 to 200 words.
Yeah, 180 to 200 words. That's for your benefit so that you can come under the time. But if you speak faster, then you can use more words. Or if you speak slower, then you can use lesser words.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. How will we get the topics on second? I will send you, yes, it's going to be sent on WhatsApp. I'm going to send you a sheet and you will see your name and then you can see your topic. All of that's going to be given to you. And you can also see your proposition, whether your proposition or opposition. Karthik, yes, tell me what's your question.
Ma'am, can you explain me that? Ma'am, can you explain the structure of a speech?
Yes, so I think your structure has introduction, body, and conclusion. Your body should have points and explanation to those points. Your explanation could have reasonings, justifications, examples, illustrations, statistics, research, all of that. So that is your structure. Any other question with respect to construction?
Clear, ma'am.
Karthik, I think you'll have to go back and read the entire, listen to the recording again. But if you have specific doubts of what you did not understand, let me know.
Ma'am, where we get topics?
The topics will be sent to you on WhatsApp.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am.
Okay, wonderful. All right. So if you guys don't have any question, how can we get to the recordings? I send these recordings to you on WhatsApp group after each day. So you will get your recordings on the WhatsApp group, okay? Okay. Yes, Anirudh, very good question. There are two ways. One, you can anticipate points that your opponents will run. For example, if the topic is about ice cream versus cake, you know for sure what your opponents are going to say about cake. So you could think of what would I say if my opponents say this, and then you can prepare it beforehand. Second way is make pointers of all the harms of what your opponents side is. For example, if it is again ice cream versus milkshake, you could, and you're supporting milkshake, tell all the harms of ice cream in your speech. So that's the way how you do it. Arsha, what's your question?
I just wanted to ask, so can we say it like this? Suppose if we are proposing and proposition goes first. So if you're gonna say if the topic is about ice cream and cupcakes, so if you're gonna say that ice cream is better, so would you be like, I know that you might say that ice cream could give you cold or dash, but then you could answer that question while you're proposing, right?
If you think your opponents are going to say ice cream gives you cold, I think you can anticipate that point, and then in your speech you could say, but you don't have to eat ice cream all the time, or you can say that you can eat because ice cream can give you cold. Less amount of ice cream does not harm you, or you can probably eat ice cream in summertime. So that's the response to that. So you could think of these responses in your speech. Wonderful, Zoya.
Ma'am, we can also say that ice cream is available everywhere and it is also cheap.
Yes. Zoya?
Excuse me, ma'am. Excuse me, ma'am. Opposition
Just a
or
second.
proposition?
What, Zoya? What were you saying?
How will you know your opposition or proposition?
The same way how you would know your topic. So I will tell you, let's say, Zoya, this is your topic. You will be proposition in round 1. This is the date, and then opposition whenever your opposition, all of that.
Ma'am, excuse me, ma'am. In second round, in the first round we are opposition and in second round we are proposition.
No. So it's likely that if you're in first round, if you're proposition, you'll be opposition in next round, but it's not sure. So I think it will change, yes, but it's not sure yet.
Okay. Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes, Samaksh.
Ma'am, and ma'am, how many words will there in 3 lines?
Depends on how small or big you write, but I think you'll have to not okay. If you're talking about 3 minutes, then yes, I mean 180 words to 200 words, yeah, sounds fine to me. But think of how fast you speak, and then yes, Samaksh.
Ma'am, and so ma'am, when we will get the topic?
22nd of October.
Okay, ma'am.
Yes, Anirudh, you could do that. If your question is that. All right. Wonderful. Now, can I ask you a question? Whoever is in iPhone, can you rename yourself? Okay, now I'm going to ask you a question. We'll play fastest fingers first again, okay? Let's do. Proposition will speak first and then opposition speaks next. Yes, Anirudh, all of these recordings are going to be sent. Don't worry. All right. Ready? Your finger should be on the chat box. Let's start. My first question is, what's the structure of speeches? What is the structure of speeches? Akansh got it right. The answer is introduction, body, conclusion. That was also very fast, Akansh. Good job. Yes, Divam, that's the correct answer. Karthik, correct. Atharv, good job. Yes. Introduction, body, conclusion. Good job. All right. Wonderful. My next question is, tell me the three parts of an argument. Yes, Divyam, that's correct. Good job. That was also very fast. Prashika, yes, that's the correct answer. Claim reasoning example. Very good. Good job. Now, claim explain. Okay, very good. All of these are correct. Let's go to the next question. My next question is, which is the most important part of an argument out of claim, reasoning, and example? What do you think is the most important part? So although saying explanation and reasoning, that's the correct answer. Your reasoning is the most important part of an argument. Very good. My next question is, let's see, what else can I ask you? How can you prepare beforehand about your reply speech? How can you prepare it? Yes, Divyam, that's correct. But Divyam is correct. Divyam says, I'll tell you what Divyam says in a bit, but I'll listen to and read all of the responses.
Ma'am, it's not Divyam, it's Divam.
But I'm talking about Divyam, whoever, there's Divyam in this meeting as well. Divyam Tandon. No, these are not the correct answers. Think more. Okay, so what Divyam said was you can predict your opponent's points and then reply to them in your speech. That's how you can prepare for reply speech. But I also told you that you can elaborate all the harms of your opponents. And you can basically, again, two things. You can elaborate all the harms of your opponents. And secondly, you could anticipate what they're going to say, think what the opponents may speak. Yes, Atha, that's correct as well. Good job. All right, I think that's pretty much it for today's session, actually. I think you all understood a lot what I wanted to teach today. And tomorrow's session is going to be about mock, and I'm going to give you two topics, and you'll tell me what you would run if you were proposition, what would you run if you're opposition. That's about